Jeremiah Doughty. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. I'm glad you're done hunting for a little bit so we can actually chit-chat.
Yeah, I mean, we are, and we have been we've had a month off, which has been nice, but we are sort of getting in shape because we are going back out there, next week, Andrea, I think, to Texas. We're going to do some hog hunting down in Texas, which is going to be a lot of fun. So,
What part of Texas?
we're going to be near the Austin area.
Okay.
So it should be good out there. We've got, it's Andrea's uncle's land, and I guess they've got hogs that are wrecking it. And so, he's like, come on out and help us out. Seems like a real win-win to me. Like hog hunting in general, that's a win-win.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you one thing, right behind the ear.
Behind the ear?
Yeah. Don't shoulder shoot them.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that before.
Oh, yeah. They've got a plate of cartilage armor. That's about, the bigger bores are going to be about an inch thick. You can actually take a knife and hit it, and it won't even do anything to it. So if you put it right between the ear, or right behind the ear, the pig's going to drop. You're never going to have a pig running off wounded. That's the last thing you want. Is that stuff in Austin is thick, in thick country out there. So last thing you want to do is walk up on a pig that's been injured. But yeah, every pig I shoot is right behind the ear, and they drop like instant, and you don't ruin any of the meat. You can have all the meat. You don't ruin. There's no chance of them running off, and it's quick and easy. And you can line up two of them too, and take the shot right behind the ear, and they fall easy.
Well, here's where my question is, because we might be talking about two different weapons here, because I'm talking about a bow primarily. Would you still shoot for that same spot with a bow?
You can put it right in the neck with a bow. The problem is you can shoot them. It depends on how close you're getting. But if you're using mechanical broadheads and you go into that shoulder plate, I have had multiple people in my classes that we take out that drill it, shoulder punch that pig, and you never find that pig. And you watch it back on camera, you're like, dude, it's like the pig jumps, you watch the arrow break, like it's perfect.
Right.
Never find it. So I always try to tell people that either you wait for them to extend their arm and put it behind their shoulder, because pigs, the way pigs' guts go, they kind of sit a little higher. If you think about if you ever shot a bear have lungs that kind of go down a little lower and their guts kind of sit on top. Hogs are going to be the same way. It's not a separation like you would in a deer.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I mean, the crazy thing about all of this is there's just been so much to learn. Like I've talked before about how we came into hunting as complete adult beginners. Like this is not something I had done as a kid. It's not something my family had really engaged with. And so that hunt that we just did this fall for whitetail, first ever. And, I learned everything that I could. And, Andrea released her documentary on the hunt that really told the story of what happened there. But, it was just such a great experience. But to be brand new at it is a wild thing. And I think people get uncomfortable being brand new at something that is, man, so complex and so deep, and you need so much knowledge to walk into it alone. It's a tough experience. Have you had the benefit of being hunting or going hunting since you were a kid, or did you come into this on your own too?
I was born and raised a bird hunter, but that was it. Like shotguns. I mean, I've got a freaking safe there with 40 shotguns in it. And so shotguns were my thing until about 10 years ago. So I had no big game hunting experience at all. It was all dove, quail, chucker, turkey, pheasant. So if it flies, it dies type mentality is what I had. And so fast forward, to when I'm 28, and I found out that I was allergic to beef. Started getting really sick eating beef, digesting beef.
Whoa.
My body just rejects it completely. And so it kind of thrust me into this whole world. I mean, I was been in the restaurant business since I was 18 years old, and born and raised an Irish kid with meat and taters on the table every night. Either it was spaghettis or tacos or steaks and potatoes or mashed potatoes or you name it. It had beef in it, especially when you have a family of 7. And so your mom's always getting that thing at Costco, the one that looks like a 400-pound tube. And that's what we would have. And so if you look at all these other things that are going on, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I can't eat beef anymore. And so there was about a year where I just ate birds.
Really?
And would try out certain things and then get sick. I'm like, okay, I can't have farmed bison. I can't have farmed cattle. And so kind of threw me into this whole depression aspect of it, because you're born and raised eating one thing, and all of a sudden you can't go to In-N-Out. You can't get a burger. You can't, people don't think about it, it's a steak. I'm like, no, it's everything. You can't go to Taco Bell and get it, hey, I'm on the road because I'm driving all the time. well, Taco Bell, get a taco. All that stuff plays into it because now you're talking about cross-contamination. Where was the fat? Because I'm allergic to the fat itself, not the meat, the enzymes within the bovine fat. And so I was actually getting ready for turkey season, late season or fall season. I was at the bow range getting ready for bow hunting turkey, and this old timer was walking up, and I'm in Southern California. So if someone walks up and they have a camouflage bow or something that's other than like, fancy and pretty, you kind of go like, hey, how's it going? Let's talk. Do you kill things? And so he started telling me about how he was getting ready for an antelope hunt in Wyoming. And I was like, dang, that sounds awesome. But there's no way I can afford to hunt out of state. Like out of state hunting, as you know, I mean, just for a license in Texas, out of state's $340 or something like that. So
yeah, it's
that's just
pretty wild in Texas.
That's just for, I meant if you're hunting hogs, you don't need a license at all.
That's the nice thing, right? Like, because we're just doing hogs and like some small game, and you can get really cheap licenses for that. That's the good news.
Yeah,
But
hogs literally shoot them. There's no
care.
license.
Yeah.
And so he's telling me that he told me that the license and tag in Wyoming was $38 for a doe antelope. And I went, what? Say what? License and a tag? And he's like, yeah. So I literally put my bow back in my case, drove home, bought leftover tags because there used to be leftover tags. Now there's no leftover tags anywhere because they've lowered them, and COVID has thrown everybody into trying to fill their freezers, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I got leftover tags, and me and a buddy who's a fireman, I said, hey, dude, what are you doing next week? He's like, nothing. It's my week off. I was like, let's go to Wyoming. And so we literally drove to Wyoming, had no idea what we were doing. I bought a rifle. I went to Walmart, bought a Bushnell scope because, again, I had no idea what I was doing. Just threw that thing on there. Didn't even sight it in. And because it's to me, it was a shotgun, right? It's just a shotgun with a scope. You just put it on, pull the trigger.
Yeah, it'll be close enough.
Yeah. I mean, don't they make the scopes just you click them on and you take a shot? And it was the hardest 7 days of my entire life. And if you think about it, YouTube came out in, 2008. And so you look back at YouTube was really nothing when I started. So you couldn't Google. If you Googled how to gut an animal, it was some redneck in the sticks with a golf ball and like a machete this big. It's like, I'm going to cut the head off of this deer. And you're like, there was no educational aspect to it at all. And so I remember after like 6 days, I finally shot an antelope after learning how to adjust and trying to talk to old timers like, oh no, you're like 14 feet that way. And then I laid in the middle I sat in the field with this animal. I'm like, what the heck do I do with this thing? It's laying in my lap. And I pull out a really, really cool, expensive knife that I got when I was 13. It's the Swiss Army knife that has the toothpick, the tweezers, the corkscrew,
Oh, the legit one.
The one that's like 400 pounds. The most epic skinning knife in the world that I had never sharpened since I was 13. And I try to gut and skin this animal and no idea what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Take it to a butcher, get home the meat, and hated the meat. And I was like, this is I didn't know, right? And I didn't get back my meat. The dude, I dropped off my meat, an hour later he calls me and my meat's frozen solid. Now that I know what I know, I'm like, no, I got back some 2-year-old meat that he had sitting in the freezer. Some California kid that didn't know anything. He just like, yeah, here's your meat. Because you pull up and there's 400 antelope hanging outside. They're not taking care of them. They're not. I'm not saying all butchers are that way.
No, but it's such a sketchy thing. I've certainly heard of it, and it's like one of the best reasons to process, stuff yourself if you can. Yeah. Because who knows?
Well, we had this. I have a Facebook page, and it's from Field to Plate, but it's a group, and it's open to you. All you can do is tell stories about food and hunt. Like there's no trophy pictures. If your trophy picture's up there and it doesn't have a picture of food, it gets taken down, or doesn't have a really cool story, it gets taken down. Because I could care less. There's so many pages. Go dump it on whitetailhunters.com and let everyone go, oh, that's such a big buck. I want to see a little spike, get shot and people get excited about it because it looks really good when they're eating it. And this dude posted a picture. He was all pissed off. He had this big, beautiful 140-pound whitetail, and he got back 30 pounds of meat from the processor, and it was on styrofoam with saran wrap over it, like all freezer burned.
Yeah,
and
nice.
He was livid. He's like, what do I do? And I'm like, I'm the kind of guy where I got the number and I called the place. And I was like, this is wrong. And the guy's like, well, this is how we process it. And I'm like, bull crap, this is how you process it. Mm-hmm. So they ended up giving that guy back his money, which is great. But the dude lost out on all this meat that they have no idea where the meat is or whose meat he got. And so anyway, that's kind of, I got thrust into this world of big game hunting. I had the basis of bird hunting, but when it came to walking around 4-legged critters and shooting them, I had no idea. And so my then goal, because in the restaurant industry, what I did was I wrote training and development programs for servers, bartenders, back of the house, front of the house, managers. And so I said, if I can take this knowledge of creating training programs for a restaurant, for servers to have never served before, walk up to a table and say, hey, can I go in and get you a drink? Then I can take that and teach that into that no one else has to go through the struggles I did with a Swiss Army knife at Stoll and not knowing how to use a Bushnell scope and not having anyone to call, not understanding. This is before Onyx, so we're using paper maps that had a little chunk of BLM, and you're hoping that you're on public land, not private land when you're walking around. You're just like, I think I'm following the right road.
Yeah.
And then you get onto it. And so it was a struggle. And so that's literally where From Field to Plate started, was after that year. I said, I can't have anybody else struggle the way I struggled. And so, I mean, I literally dove into this head first. And 4 years after that, I quit my job completely in the restaurant industry. And this is all I do now is, cook and teach classes. Past 3 years, I've taught 400 brand new adult hunters from the moment they pull a trigger to the moment they put food on their table, and their hands have done it all. So it really is exciting, and it's a lot more fulfilling than teaching a server how to make a strawberry lemonade.
Yeah, it makes sense. This is my problem with Zoom calls is that if we were in person, I would have stopped you like 8 times during that story. And so in a Zoom call, I have to just like try to write everything down because you mentioned like 100 things that I have to absolutely have to go back to. No, I mean, I wish we could have done this one in person, and I hope we get to meet at some point. But this just, when I'm going to be out in California next, it's going to be a minute. But okay, so let's start here. Let's start with the food aspect, because that's such a major thing. The entire reason that I wanted to get into hunting is because I love food. I cook everything. I mean, Andrew and I have moved to a lifestyle where we literally cook every single meal that we're eating. It's challenging. It's really rewarding. But I don't have... I also cook like really simply when I can. And more so, we've gotten into just eating basically just meat. We do meat and sourdough, and that's pretty much it. So the food aspect, when I see, these plates that you put together, they're just fantastic, man. And it really makes it seem like you're respecting the meat and then also making it just absolutely delicious. But I want to know a little more about the background in cooking. Like, so you were working in restaurants, so when did that start? Like, what was food for you? Why did that come about?
Yeah, I never actually worked back of the house. I never did the cooking, like the cook lines, never did the chef school. Food in my family was that moment that everyone came together. Mm-hmm. Being a big Irish family, it was always, my dad built a table that could sit 30 people. And I can't tell you a time that table was not filled with friends, neighbors, family members. And so food was always, for me, it was always never just a nourishment. It was always a story. It was always a laugh. It was always an encouragement. Watching my grandpa, the reason I know how to make a hamburger is watching my grandpa make a hamburger patty. And he used to sit there and make us, our kids, we'd make a meatball and then smash it out. And you have to have perfect edges and go around with it and show it love and be tender. Just like if you were dating a woman, you want to go real soft. And right, that's what my grandpa would tell us when we were like 7 years old, as we're making these patties to put on the barbecue. And so food has always, to me, been more than just nourishment. It's always been an experience. It's always been part of who I am. And so when the transition came into eating wild, like my family, it's 99% wild game that we're eating, and fish, it was easy. My wife, born and raised Southern California girl, it was not in her lifestyle at all. It was always, quick, let's go do fast food, or mom would make this. And so to transition her into this lifestyle, or my daughters, where they were like, all their friends are going to McDonald's, I'm like, I can make a Big Mac, was just something different. And then as you start to hunt with more and more people, you start to hear, I don't like this, it's gamey. I don't like this because it tastes like this. I don't like this because it tastes like this. And for me, it became a challenge. Just like in the restaurant industry, when someone would be like, oh, I really don't like that. I took offense to that. And it was my job to make whatever they didn't like taste better. And so when someone says, I don't like pheasant, it became my goal to make that one person like pheasant. I could care less about anybody else. I needed to make Tom like pheasant. So have a conversation with Tom. He's like, oh, Tom, what's your favorite chicken dish? Oh, I love orange chicken from Panda Express. Of course you do. And so now,
who doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, right? Who doesn't like, all that nasty stuff going into your body? So now I sit there and say, okay, Tom, I'm going to create a recipe that mimics, but in a healthier version and something you can recreate at home that doesn't include all these things you can't pronounce. And you're going to cook it at home. And all of a sudden Tom's like, dude, I want to go shoot more pheasant and I just want to make orange chicken. And so food for me and wild game became the reason I started taking beautiful pictures and teaching myself. You look back at when I started 6 years ago doing From Field to Plate, look at the pictures then and the pictures now. I realized that I could tell a story by a picture more than telling somebody about a hunt. They could look at it going, oh, I want to eat that. Then it opened up a door.
I really like sort of your rule in your group, the idea of like, well, we have to have the food if we're going to have the animal. And like, and that gels exactly with, like I said, the reason that, we got into hunting. And I feel like hunting and cooking, they go hand in hand for obvious reasons because we're out there to procure meat, but they go hand in hand for another reason that I sort of rant about a lot on the podcast. Like I get upset about the idea that as people, you're being pushed into a system of life that is all about trade-offs. That's about doing only the thing that you are the most effective at doing, and letting everybody else do the thing that they're most effective at doing. It's a basic concept of like how economies work, but I don't think it works for a person. So what I mean is you wake up in the morning and you need to outsource your breakfast to somebody else because someone else made a microwavable sandwich so that you can have an egg sandwich way faster than you could have made it on your own. And then you're going to get in your car, and now maybe the car is going to drive itself so you can work on your way to work where you're going to work all day and then go out for lunch that somebody else made again because they do it faster and better than you do. You come home on your way, you pick up something someone else cooked. We're just outsourcing all those different things, which economically is smart, but I think hurts the person. And I think that there's value in doing things that are slow. And hunting itself, it's got to be the slowest way to get meat, man. It's the most time-consuming thing that you can do to go and get yourself some meat. If you become very good at it, I'm sure it becomes easy. For us, it has been really, really time-consuming. But once the value of doing that, the value of procuring that meat yourself, the value of preparing it yourself, the value of cooking it yourself, the way that going slow changes the person, I mean, to me, that's where the value is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll hear me say the same exact thing you just said, but I call it's our fast food idea. We're thrown into this fast food mindset, right? Where it's easier. I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, I just went to Walmart and got a pre-cooked chicken that's been sitting there for who knows how long, that was roasted in an oven that who knows what, with thrown seasonings that who knows who. But I just got this pre-cooked chicken because it's easier. My kids are playing sports and they're doing this and this, and so we're just going to sit there and have chicken. They spent $7.86 on a pre-cooked chicken when a raw chicken, whole chicken, even if you get an organic one, is only going to be $5. So it's cheaper to do it yourself. It may not be, it's still not that long. It takes an hour and 22 minutes to cook a freaking chicken. Like you spend more time on your phone looking at TikToks because your mindset tells you can't do it. And you fast forward that into the hunting realm. I can't tell you how many people tell me I don't have the time to butcher my own meat. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. I just don't got the time to do that.
Really? That seems like the easier part to me. No. I mean, compared to the hunting where you're out there for days.
They will go hunt and hike around for an elk for 2 weeks and plan for it for 2 weeks, hike around for 2 weeks, pack that sucker in and out, 8 times because it's 8, it's 900 pounds of meat, and they're by themselves and their truck is 11 miles away, and they'll tell you these stories, right? Yeah, and then I got it in the truck, and I took it to a processor. What the and my mind's blown. I'm like, I don't have the time to do that. Yeah. No, you don't want to do that. And that's the difference. The butchering aspect of it isn't glorified. It's getting more and more glorified, and I'm excited because it's going along that path, and you're starting to see people. When I first was Frenching out backstraps, if you go back and look, I was one of the very first people that started Frenching out backstraps. It has flooded your social media with people making lollipops and Frenched out backstraps and full bone because it became glorified. It became something that was beautiful. And this time consuming thing all of a sudden was shared through a meal and through a story. You look at people that were just hacking off backstraps in big strips and holding it up like a fish picture, right? Which is awesome. But now you're starting to see people not hold up that backstrap, but they're starting to hold up the heart, or they're starting to hold up, beautiful packages of cut meat, or all of a sudden this process has become people realizing that we're cutting out the middleman. I did a thing for a magazine. We were doing an article with, I can't remember the magazine, but we were doing an article, and we were talking about how many like food processing and through my disease and what I'm allergic to. And me and this biologist did this study where an average steak at a grocery store, be it, let's just say a ribeye at whatever Safeway or H-E-B, whatever you got close to you, that average steak touched 100 things before it made it to your house. Be that a human hand, be that a plastic machine, be that a truck, be that a pallet jack. It has been a part of 100 things minimum before it even gets to your table, which is mind-blowing to think that 100 hands or machines have touched that single steak.
I agree.
And that was just from a butcher, or from the moment they put the cattle on the cattle car to take them to finishing, to the stockades for finishing, to the processor, to the trucks, to the freeze, to the whatever, right? All the way down the line. I shoot an elk. It's touched by my hand and my knife. That's it. Maybe my vacuum sealer, maybe a wrap of saran wrap. Like, when it gets to my table, there's my hands that did all of it. I can tell you the story. I can tell you the background. And I think that's where the reward comes in, that I don't care how long it takes me. My wild game meat has never been recalled off a shelf. I've never had an E. coli breakout on venison. I've never had one of my pheasants give me a disease. Never. And I've been solely wild game for 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I love everything you're saying. You're spot on. And for people who sort of engage with hunting, and I think like my audience, some people, I've done a number of episodes about hunting so far. I had Jeremy Kerber on from Fit to Hunt, who I guess you guys are connected. He's the one
really
that
short though. Have you ever met him in person?
Yeah, of course.
Like,
that's every episode I do is in person.
He's like 3
I made exception for you. He's awesome, man. He's such a nice guy. And man, I hope I get to go hunting with him at some point. I love how he's just like hunting in backyards in suburbia. It's so funny to me when I see those shots, and I'm like, well, why not? But okay, where was I going with that? So they've heard all of the stuff that, like, as hunters, I get to call myself that now. That feels good. That as hunters we talk about all the time, like the I don't know, the safety of the meat, the pride of getting the meat, the environmental impact of the meat, whatever. Like, the standard talking points, the Ranella talking points. But I do like to touch on the fact that I think among all the things you're saying, like, I think it's getting better. I think things are getting better. I think hunters are getting better. I think the process is getting better, and it's probably because of what you talked about before. Like, when you went out, there wasn't a YouTube where you could just go to. Now there is better and better content out there to where someone like me, I learned mostly through documentaries and Meat Eater and YouTube videos, and I can find all the information I want in several books and things like that. The part that makes me nervous, the part that starts to bug me, is it's sort of a major issue right now, right? There's a level of YouTube censorship or demonetization for videos that feature dead animals. And Andrea knows this better than I do. Do you know what are they demonetizing? Is it like butchering? Would that be demonetized, or is it just
every one of my videos?
What did you say?
There's so many different levels.
She said there's different levels of it.
Whether you're
Butchering, seeing the face, seeing the stress, seeing an animal in distress, whatever, and all of your videos, like you said. So that does bug me. That makes me feel like if we de-incentivize people creating this great content, then will we keep doing it? Will we keep getting better together? Will people like you be able to make new inroads with different parts of the animal, how to butcher and how to prepare different parts, and will showing a picture of the heart and having pride in that continue to grow? Like, does any of that worry you? I know it must bug you, but does it worry you?
It worries me for the fact that, like, a lot of my friends that make a full-time living off of those videos, who aren't making full-time, like, I don't know. I also view it for the fact that, like, it encourages me, because, again, I told you in the very, very beginning, when you tell me something is bad or I can't, it's my job to prove you completely wrong. And that's where I find my desire, my passion is, like, someone told me coyotes are disgusting to eat. And so I forced myself to figure out how to make coyotes taste good. And I get tagged by people now daily who are eating coyote and loving the taste of coyote. Meat is meat, right? But there's this factor, this ew factor, this westernized mindset that has got thrust upon us, that I think that's what scares me more, is the generations coming up, like my daughter's, who's 12 and 11, you know, hearing the way her friends talk and the way that all they do. I mean, I pull up to school, my daughter and all her friends, not my daughter, but all her friends, their faces are buried in their phones. All of them. I mean, the whole row of junior hires, their face is in their phone. And I think we've taken, this is, you know, I mean, I'm 38 years old. I feel like I'm one of the last generations that was outside, because internet came right when I was entering junior high, you know, AOL and all the other stuff. And so we were actually the first generation to be brought from outside inside with video games, with internet. And I think the more and more we push it, the more and more they're not going to want to go out. Like, we just had a youth hunting event on Saturday here in Southern California. And 10 years ago, we had 400 kids show up to this event because it's free hunting. It's for duck hunting. We have giveaways. We had 33 kids show up.
Yeah.
And I think the problem doesn't lie in the kids. The problem lies in their parents, because you're of the age right now where you could be a parent. And if you're not involved in hunting and your whole mind is looking at TikTok videos and making some stupid dance and making content for a fake life versus a real life, that's what scares me most, is I'm watching all these little kids live in a virtual world. They're talking about...
buy virtual real estate and do all
everything.
sorts of things.
I mean, literally, like, I was watching that Joe Rogan one where they were talking about virtual real estate. And I text Rogan afterward, and he goes, dude, I'm still baffled by this idea that you just buy real estate online and
you just name dropped that so casually. I liked it. That was fun.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
I just texted Rogan.
But there's this mindset where everything they do is brought indoors.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me, is that I think we're the last generation. And if we can't, the reason I take out adult hunters and not youth as a primary thing is because I've never seen a kid go to Cabela's and drop $3,000 on gear by themselves. They've never just been like, hey, Mom, I'm going to Cabela's. I'm going to take the car. I'm going to Cabela's. I'm going to go drop $3,000 on new guns. No, but if you get their parents involved and you get their parents to buy in, now all of a sudden this kid is being brought into this world and being brought outside and bringing, you know, it's scary. And I think that scares me more than like losing the monetizing and losing all this other stuff. It's that the next generation doesn't care that we're losing it.
I understand what you're saying, and man, it's tough. I mean, it's funny that we can be talking about hunting and then it connects to all these like massive systemic social issues, right? Because it's not just about hunting. It's also about how are we raising kids, and at what point do we want to let them engage with the fact that the world is online now, and at what point do we want to be like, get off that thing and go outside? And I ultimately, if I can be honest, like we have done a lot of traveling and met a lot of really cool people out there, and I generally feel really positive about, I don't know, the future of everything, of like our country and next generations and things like that. Generally, I feel that we're doing some really good things, and I've met some people who believe in making themselves better and learning things. And to be fair, I mostly participate in things that sort of force you to, like jiu-jitsu, like hunting. That's where you're going to meet some really cool people who have that discipline and have earned a lot of things for themselves. But I don't know, man. I mean, it only takes a few people, though, right? Like a lot of my friends growing up did get sucked into the video games and sucked into the indoor life. I definitely watched that happen. I had parents who were good enough to not allow me to go there, and because I didn't do that stuff as a kid, I don't like it. Like, I would much rather be outside because that's what I grew up with. And I think it only takes a few people to help, I don't know, encourage others and bring people with you and mentor in hunting. And people have been so welcoming in hunting. You've taken this time to do the podcast with me. Jeremy took the time to do the podcast with me and to mentor me on that hunt. You know, we can all kind of make a big impact. The cool people I've met can make a big impact, and it's through things like this. The problem is if we lose the channels to do things like this. If you lose the incentive to keep being on YouTube, or your friends who make a full-time income from that, that's a problem. And so I guess my eyes are always looking toward like, where next? Like, where's the next place that we are going to be able to put content? And I see good things. I see like decentralized platforms and some things out there that seem promising, but it's been a big concern of mine lately.
No, and I feel exactly where you're going. It's just, I try to look at it. I don't know. It's that whole fire and brimstone mindset. Like, it sucks because I get censored a lot, and I look at what I'm putting out. I have a beautiful table full of meat that is gorgeous. There's nothing offensive. There's not a drop of blood anywhere. And I'm getting it taken down for whatever content violation. I then scroll through Instagram, and there's a chick who's completely naked, shaking her butt to offensive music, and it's got 1.3 million likes. And that's where it angers me, is that we're in this society where real is fake and fake is real. And so the more real that we put out there, you know, is where the fear comes in my mind, is because I'm trying to be 100% authentic. And at what point do I tell myself, because I've watched a lot of my friends in the outdoor industry who scream authenticity, but now they need to make money, and so it's easier for them to now, in a term of the old school 80s, 90s bands, is sell out. Okay, well, I'm just going to, this meat processing company, blah, 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 is going to give me, you know, $5,000 to sit here and wear a bikini and make sausages. I promise I would never do that. That's $5,000 that I really, really need, because everything's and that's where I'm more scared, because all of a sudden they want to get into mainstream. They're not getting taken down anymore. They're making their money now because they're filling all these things, and then it weeds out the authenticity within you, within me, within Jeremy, within, you know, Ranella. You can even see some of the stuff that Ranella's done where he's trying to go more mainstream and use less of what he used to use in seasons 1, 2, and 3, but now he's using it in 6, 7, and 8 because he doesn't want to get shut down. He doesn't want to get demonetized. He doesn't want to get people looking at it. He still wants to stay on Netflix. And so I think that to me is more scary, is watching us just kind of keep taking a step back until pretty soon we're all still doing the same content, but we're scared of it. And we're fearful of how people are going to view us and how people are going to look at us. I mean, last week alone, this was February, 1st through the 7th, I had 418 death threats.
I'm sorry, say that sentence.
418 death threats in 1 week. Okay. That's something that's not talked about. Why? Because we all get death threats. And mine, I don't even know why. I'm like, I post a burger.
Oh God, I hope I don't.
Oh, pretty soon the death threats are just like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah. Okay.
Good Lord, man.
But the ones that really scare me are the ones that talk about my kids.
Right.
Like, you know, hey, I saw you string that deer up. I'm going to string your kid up and skin him the same way. That's the mindset that blows me away, is someone's idea of life for a deer is more valued than my 11-year-old daughter. And that's the crazy thing. PETA last month in December gave out my phone number, because my phone number's out there because of, companies or whatever I had to do. In one day, I had 1,000 phone calls with people, F you, you F and blah, 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 blah. And my wife is getting mad at me because it's on a Saturday, and I answered every single call. She's like, stop answering it. And I go, nope. I was like, hey, how's it going? And and I was like, great. Jesus loves you. Click, whatever, and out of those 1,000 calls, 3 people were like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't, and I had 3 really amazing conversations out of 1,000 people calling to tell me I'm horrible. A lot of people would get discouraged with that. There's females that I know in this industry who have committed suicide because of death threats and because of phone calls. There's men that I know in this industry who have committed suicide because of these things. And I think that is more important to talk about with the hidden agenda, with people coming in and destroying us. There's a group that is attacking us. There's a reason that we're being demonetized. It's not just the metaverse going, oh, this person has a knife and has a beard, so get rid of them. There's a group that's attacking us. And that group, I think that's what scares me more, is that people are just blindly following that group and thinking, oh, the animal's this, the animal's that. I mean, every one of these deer behind me on this wall, or that bear over there, or that coyote, or that bobcat, I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you the dinner. I'll tell you the meat. My kids will tell you the story of that animal. They'll tell you the story of that meat. And to me, that's more important than, making money.
To be threatened for doing something that is arguably the most human thing you can do. I mean, you can make that argument from history, from our biology, from a million different directions. To receive that kind of feedback for something that is so naturally human, it's like being death threatened for breathing, man. That's sick, man.
And it's even worse as you look at what's on TV right now. The number one show right now in the country is 1883, right? With people in there who are anti-guns, firing guns and killing people on TV, and it's being praised as one of the greatest shows. They sit there and they shoot a deer, and he puts blood on his son's face in the middle of the show, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's so cool." If I posted a picture of blood on my daughter's face, I'm going to be shut down. It's going to be taken down. But it's the number one show on TV because it's dramatized as this. I mean, literally, he shot it. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't.
But someone sent me a clip, and it's who's that country music singer that's in it? Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. So Tim McGraw takes out his 5-year-old son to shoot a whitetail, and he lays down, and he's got a beautiful Henry lever action. Pulls it. The deer drops. He walks over and is like, "Son, killing a life," and it's a great moment. And he's like, "But now you need to be, blessed with it." He first of all, the way he guts, I'm like, "That's not how you gut." My wife's like, "Shut up, Jeremiah." He literally just takes his knife and like pulls the whole hide up. I'm like, "Yeah, I've never had a whitetail. Just look, it's open." And he sticks his hands in the guts, and he marks his son with blood, and he has this conversation. And it's been, I always feel like, "Oh my gosh, is that how it goes? Is that how it happens? Do you like, it's just a little blood?" I'm like, but it's okay for that. It's okay for an actor to do it on TV and be glorified. But in real life, taking out my daughter who shot her first deer, and I put the blood on her face, I got deemed as, a horrible father. I got death threats. I got fill in the blank in real life because it wasn't fake. That's what bothers me the most.
This conversation took an interesting turn. I'm glad you took us here, frankly, because we could have had a podcast about some of the really standard hunting talking points. Like I said, this is not one that I have gotten into yet. Although strangely, I did a podcast yesterday with a great friend here, Master Al Guiney, who is a black belt at 10th Planet Tucson here, where I'm training right now. And he had a UFC event where people disagreed with the call he made as a ref, and he was telling me about the death threats and things that he got. And this has been on my mind a lot lately, the idea of, good Lord, a death threat. I mean, that's not a comfortable thing for me. You have to understand that, like, you have made your peace with that, and I'm sure you have done things within your life to become more secure and make sure your family is all safe and taken care of and stuff. That would shake me pretty good. That's a really unfortunate thing to have happen, and I guess it's just another thing to get used to. But it's pretty sick to me that would happen in this world, for especially for something that, like I said, it's like breathing. I mean, what else would they expect you to do? Man, I'm a little stumped. I'll be honest. I rarely get stumped.
Well, I mean, when the first death threat I got, I felt the same exact way as you, and it was, oh my gosh, do I have I got to protect my family. I got to do it. And then all of a sudden, you start to realize that 99.9% of them are just keyboard warriors.
Right.
And they're just, it makes them feel good. It validates them. It makes them feel like, oh, I stood up for something, right? And I call it the Disney mindset, where Disney has made all these animals friendly, has made all these animals a family, has made them talk, has made them engaging, has made this aspect of, oh, Bambi is Bambi, and Thumper, Thumper is a rabbit, or whatever. You take any Big Brother or Brother Bear, right? You go through all these different things, and these animals have become very Disneyized. And so as a hunter, when we take that Disney character's life, even though we're eating it, we're murderers, we're fill in the blank, A, B, and C. the same people that are screaming at me are going to Jack in the Box and getting a cheeseburger because they don't care.
We had that exact same experience. We were down duck hunting in Florida. I hadn't been duck hunting before, and we were out there with Ben McCann, who came on the podcast. People may remember that episode. It was a very strange experience. He did warn me before he went, hey, we're shooting near a residential area. We are on public land, but sometimes people come out and yell at us. And so I was glad he prepared me because we had quite a few people come out and yell at us all morning, basically, which the interesting thing he told me about that is actually what they're doing is illegal, to disrupt a hunt in progress. What they're doing is illegal. And he would tell them that too. And he's always got to be recording all the time so that he's protecting himself from that. But it is wild to me the way people are yelling at us. We're out here duck hunting in a really respectful way to those animals. Of course, all the normal hunting talking points, like I said, we're going to be eating all those ducks that we get. We're retrieving them, all of them as best we can. And then those people who are yelling at us and have a moral problem with what we're doing, I mean, how many of them went to McDonald's that night? I guarantee they did. There's no thinking about what that cow's life was like that you got that burger out of. There's no consideration for that compared to that duck that ended really quick. It's even that Disneyfied version. Like, which would you rather have happen to Bambi? Right? Bambi's finite. Bambi is going to die one day, as all animals do, including us. Would you rather Bambi get taken down by some wolves and have the slowest, most horrible death ever, which is one option, or be taken out by a hunter in the fastest way we can do it, in the most respectful way we can do it, in the calmest way we can do it, and then it's actually going to be used to fortify a human being? It is complicated, and I get that. And to your point about Disney, I think you could be right. The personification of animals like that, it's certainly like an issue. But I mean, you look at mythology, we had stories personifying animals for long, long periods of time. But I don't feel like that messed with people's minds because people were involved in procuring their own meat because that was how you lived. And so when that's what you live off of, you can't add sort of like a value judgment onto those animals. You can respect them, and that's what that mythology is, but they're not your neighbor. Meanwhile, the people who feel that Bambified thing and are personifying animals are the ones who are sending death threats to an actual person, to an actual child. That's yeah.
Well, I mean, I've taken out ex-vegans, or they were vegan and then they went on their first hunts with me. One of the guys I took out, I've told the story before, but he was giving me death threats, for killing birds.
And you met up with this guy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I took him hunting. And
handed him a gun.
Well, let me finish my story.
Oh,
and no, so it was 6 months, and I pretty much tell him, like, I'll never block or ban a vegan or vegetarian or an anti, because I think there's anti-hunters and then there's people that just don't understand it. And I think that's the two categories. And I think if you're anti-hunting, you're at it to throw a death threat because you just hate the idea of shooting an animal. If you don't understand it, you're a non-hunter. I think that's where we can engage in conversation. And most vegans are non-hunters. They just, they don't understand it. They just, it hurts the animal. And so anyway, long story short, 6 months go by. Him and I are chit-chatting back and forth. I end up taking him. He's like, hey, I think I want to go on a hunt. Like, I've been following you, and I realized that you're not just out there to kill animals. Like, you're actually utilizing every single aspect of it. And I'm like,
wow.
Your first step is to get a hunting license. After that, I've got every gun, every ammo, every camouflage, anything that you would need. But I can't do that first step. That's the only thing that you need to do. So he got his hunting license, and we went out on the first hunt together. And I remember he was coming down the dirt road, and he had a Prius, right? We're all in our big trucks, and his little Prius is bouncing down this dirt road to come bird hunting with us. And I look at my brother. I'm like, hey, you have your sidearm? He's like, yep. I was like, just keep it on you. Like, this dude's pulling around this corner. And my brother, had his hand on his back, and this guy comes out and gets out, and he's covered in tattoos. He's got long dreadlocks. And I walk over and put my hand out. And he goes, I can't believe you're going to shake my hand. I was like, dude, let's. And we had this amazing conversation, and I literally handed him a gun. Said, you ever shot a gun before? He's like, nope. I'm like, great. So I started throwing some clays, teaching him how to use a shotgun. And then we shot birds. And remember the first bird that we shot, he kind of looked at me. He's like, I just took a life. And I was like, yeah, but you didn't just kill the kill. And I had this whole conversation about food and procurement. And it was like birds were flying over our head. Everyone's yelling at us. And I'm like sitting in the dirt with this dude.
And you're
like,
teaching. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the dirt. My dad's like, dude. And I was like, I'll fill my tags later. Like, I'll shoot 15 birds in 5 seconds, Dad. Just relax. And talking to this guy and have this huge conversation. And then we go and he finishes. He shoots all his birds. And then we go back to camp. And I'm showing him how to pluck them, skin them, gut them. And then we cook meal, and I hand him a bird, and he's like, I haven't had a bite of meat in over 20 years. And he took a bite of this meat, and my whole family's there. He's with my mom, my dad, my uncles, my grandmas. We all go on this hunting trip. There's this random hippie, and his mindset when he took that bite of food, you can watch his face just was like, oh, right? There was something different than going and getting a chicken nugget, where it's just a chicken nugget, or even going to the grocery store and getting a chicken breast. There's no attachment to that food.
Right.
That food, I cannot tell you a story about Parmesan chicken. Tell me your greatest Parmesan chicken. You'll be like, no, I don't know.
To be fair, even if it's a farm chicken, like a happy, good chicken life, it's kind of a boring story because chickens they're a little boring.
There's there's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
He now has a story. Hey, I shot this one. This is the first one I shot. Yep. Oh, I used it. And all of a sudden there was this juxtaposition between food and life. All of a sudden came and there was a synopsis in his brain that clicked. And he went, oh my gosh, this is real life. This is real. This is what my ancestors did. We're not living how we were taught to live. Why do you think cancer is on the rise? It's what we're putting into our body. Why do you think autism? Why do you think all these other spectrum things that have never been around before the 40s have skyrocketed? There's a book that I absolutely love. One of them is eating for your blood type. It talks about like how to eat for your blood type, which is phenomenal. But they talk about how the rise of diabetes, heart disease, all this stuff came around in the 50s when we started introducing processed food. So you're telling me that prior to that, where we were living a healthier lifestyle and we were living maybe not as long, but healthier and more active, we introduced this processed food, and all of a sudden we're all dying of cancers and heart disease and lung disease and tooth decay. Like, how does that happen? Well, it's what we're putting into our body. And so that story, just like I said, with that vegan, and I've taken out now multiple vegans who are no longer vegans. They call themselves hunting vegans. They'll only eat what they kill, which to me is like, that's even better.
That's pretty cool.
And so it's just fun to watch them continue to progress and watch them. One of those guys, his name's Michael. I took him out on his first dove hunt. He was an ex-vegan, and he now bought a hunting dog. He goes out bird hunting all the time. He lives in Chicago now. He's sending me pictures of all these pheasant and his dog and his kids, and he's like, "Oh, that's why I do what I do."
That's why you answered 1,000 phone calls from would-be haters, because you believe in the 3 that you had good conversations with.
Right.
I'm glad we're talking a little bit about diet, because that has been another big thing that we've gotten into is, of course, the Carnivore Code, Paul Saladino's book, fantastic book, and Andrew and I both read it, and that really changed our perspectives on eating meat, and just what a difference that makes for your body. Now Andrew is talking about going full carnivore for like at least a couple months, and that scares me because it's a little tricky to pull off. But I think she might go for it. But what was the point was I making? Oh, so I was thinking about with your diet thing, how did you find out that you were allergic to beef fat? It's not something I've heard of, because in my limited knowledge of this, it's sort of like, hey, meat is good for everybody and there's very few problems with it. So is that something you really had to like test for and find out about? That's got to be rare. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk to every single doctor you can and trying to figure out why you're getting sick. And imagine getting the worst flu of your life for about 8 hours, about 30 minutes after you eat food. It affected so much of my life that, like, I had just gotten married. And I was afraid to go out and eat at restaurants. Working at the restaurant itself, I was afraid to eat while I was there. Like, I was sticking to like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and like tuna fish sandwiches, because those are the things that didn't make me sick. And So you start to go to all these doctors, and that's right when gluten became a thing. They're like, oh, it's a gluten intolerance. I'm like, I live off peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It's not a gluten intolerance.
Yeah.
Oh, well, your nut allergies. Again, peanut butter, it's not. Oh, it's got to be dairy. I can drink a gallon of milk and go about my day. I can eat cheese sticks all day long, right? And so pretty soon it just became, well, you're just, you've got IBS. They throw it. Oh,
yeah, just the catch-all, which is nonsense, and they've done that to me. They've done that to Andrea. We both had, that symptom be taken down as well. It's IBS, so just deal with it. There's no solutions, by the way. The only thing, like for me, they put me on proton pump inhibitors. So I was taking over-the-counter like omeprazole for a long time, which is just, what is that? That's the main antacid one. I can't think of the brand name right now.
Tums or Prilosec, yeah.
Prilosec, yeah. And so I was on Prilosec, and then they bumped me up to this like prescription level dose. And when you read about what proton pump inhibitors do and how they kill your stomach acid and how really your body needs the exact opposite if you're having like acid reflux and things, it is wild that that's just the answer that you get from a doctor.
Just give them a medicine. And so
or call it IBS and give them nothing.
Right. And for me, it was one of those deals. I'm like, dang, it's just not like, I can't do this. And so finally I finally found a doctor who was like, let's figure this out, because this doctor, she was, she had a lot of really bad joint problems. So much so that she moved to Hawaii for the temperate to try to fix her joints. 'Cause everywhere in the US she was living, with any temperature change, it was killing her.
Wow.
To the point she couldn't get out of bed. And, she was a microorganism biologist for food and drug administration, stuff like that. So she started taking a look at stuff from a microscopic standpoint within your gut. And for her, she realized that she still wasn't getting better with all these joint pains and everything else. So when she was in Hawaii, she was like trying anything. So she went and talked to this like village shaman. It was like, I'm giving it up, just anything. What do you guys do? And he was like, well, first of all, you need to get back to eating right. And we're going to put you on an island diet, which was like fish and rice. This is your diet: fish, rice, and pork. Here you go. And within like 60 days, she was like, she got out of bed and she started walking to the bathroom. She's like, my knees don't hurt. And so she started taking a look at food from a perspective. So when I reached out, she was like, this is a new challenge for me to figure out, right? And so we started looking at different things. There was these lists of the rarest things people's bodies and nowadays are rejecting. So she's like, we're going to start with the rarest list. Here you go. And the very first thing on the top of that list was bovine and bovine fat. And I went, bovine, that's cows. Cow and cow fat. And then a list of oils: sunflower seed oil, soybean oil, saffron oils, canola oils, vegetable oil. Like, it was fats and oils. And I went, holy cow, that's everyday everything. She's like, you need to give it up for 30 days because your body resets itself every 30 days. So the whole reason that Whole30 works for people is because at the end of 30 days, your body resets yourself. And then people go, oh, I can go back to it. And their body puffs back out. Keto, 30 days of keto, right? Your body resets itself so that you continue to be healthy, not so you can go, okay, and go right back to it, right? And so we did this 30-day shutdown. And I remember I was like, this is going to suck. And it sucked for about the first week. And then I realized that I felt amazing. And I never felt that good in a very long time. And it was the point where I started, like, when I didn't read the back of a package is when I got sick. And so I started just reading the back. I'm like, oh, okay. Finally, I started stop reading the back. I was like, I'm just going to make my own pasta. I'm just going to make my own sauces. I'm just going to make my own glazes, my own barbecues. I'm going to make my own spices because it's easier than reading the back of a freaking package.
And the more you cook, the more you realize as you look at those packages, you're like, why do they put that in there? I don't have to do that. I make this and I make it better.
It's a preservative.
Yeah.
Or they'll add, aluminum to stuff. You're like, why are you adding aluminum to a freaking barbecue sauce? There's no reason to add.
There's all sorts of stuff. And even when you go to sort of like the natural food stores and the natural food sections and stuff, I'll see like mayonnaise is one of the weird ones where You can find ones that they're like, oh, this is made with real eggs and all that stuff, and you look and it's got, I think it's like EDTA or something like that, and you have to start Googling all these things. I'll stand in the aisle of the store, or at least I used to before I knew some of the stuff, Googling stuff, and it'd be like EDTA, oh, this binds to heavy metals. That's pretty weird, or it binds to different nutrients and just pulls them out of your body. There's some really messed up stuff that's going on in that food. I think the big one, at least the argument from the carnivore code, is that the big one is all the seed oils, right? And like the increase in heart disease and all those things happen at the same time that shortening was sort of introduced. And
well, that's what this doctor. She was actually the one that did the study that you're talking about.
Oh, really? That's cool.
She actually did the study where she recreated the study from 1953, which is when the heart disease or the Heart Association actually came out. Where they fed all the people steaks covered in margarine, and they were watching their cholesterol rise. So she said, well, if you look at it, it's not the steak that's doing it, it's the margarine that's doing it, because it's a fake process. It's a plastic. You're literally putting plastic into your body. And then, so she recreated it with just cast irons and real butter or no oils at all. And they actually watched a decrease in all of these males, everything. So it's like, but again, Heart Association said, oh, it's got to be the beef. It can't be the processed, created fake butter we put on this.
Right.
But anyway, so her and I talked, and we gave it up. And for 30 days, I was like, man, I felt amazing.
Yeah.
And it sucked going to a restaurant with my wife. So I'm like, hey, can I just have blank, blank? Can I have a plain blank, this blank, and we still do. We go out to Cheesecake Factory. I'm like, I need a plain chicken breast, and that's it.
Yeah. It's so hard to eat, like when you're trying to eat real food, when you're eating out. I feel lucky. I finally feel like I got to a place where, because we cook everything, if I'm out, like the other day we were out in town, I couldn't go home, there was absolutely no way, and so I'm like, okay, cool, I can fuck up for one day and I don't die anymore. Like,
I still die. Oh no,
do you really?
Oh,
immediately?
one meal I'm done.
Wild.
Well,
maybe just if it's the beef fat, or if it's anything that's sort of
anything on that list.
Wow.
So I gave up that whole list, and then I was like, I feel great. She's like, great, now reintroduce everything from that list back into your body and give away this list. And I was like, okay. So that night I went home and I bought a 36-ounce ribeye, and I seasoned it, and I took one bite and started puking my guts out. And I was like, well, not going to eat that list anymore, right? Like, because your body had reset so much that it was like, now it was a quick rejection. Like, yay, get this out of your body. You can't have this. And you're talking about like, oh, it's just, there's different seasonings and spices. Like I like working with Traeger. They've switched over and they've added sunflower seed oil to all their spices, like all their flavored spices. I can't have any of their spices now, which I didn't know they changed it over. I season a steak, I throw in the venison. All of a sudden, an hour later, I'm in the bathroom feeling like I'm going to die. I'm like, it's a venison steak and a baked tater. Like,
right.
So then all of a sudden I have to go backtrack. My dad, we were hunting antelope, and he cooked these pork chops they had just butchered this pig. They gave him these pork chops, and he just grabbed a seasoning off the counter in the house we rent in Wyoming, seasoned the pork chops. We all ate pork chops, had a good night. About an hour later, I'm dying. And my dad's like, dude, it's a pork chop. I'm like, I know. So he went back and looked at the seasoning packet, and it's like sunflower and saffron oil.
Wow.
Like it's that impactful to me, where it's like, I need to know everything that goes into it. And I think that's really opened up my eyes in the terms of when you're saying, oh, I'm looking at your food pictures and they look gorgeous. It's because I'm now making everything from scratch, but I'm doing it in a way that anybody can go to a Walmart grocery store and buy the ingredients and make it for cheaper than buying it. My teriyaki sauce that I make is cheaper than buying a bottle of teriyaki sauce at Walmart.
Right.
And my teriyaki sauce has garlic, ginger, a little bit of brown sugar, soy, or you can use tamarind. You can switch off whatever you want. They're like, that's it. And you also have this beautiful, delicious teriyaki sauce that doesn't have high fructose corn syrup. It doesn't have preservative after I can't pronounce that after, whatever. And it tastes even better. Like I did a class last week or 2 weeks ago in Texas. And one of the guys like, I really want to learn how to make a good sauce. And I was like, well, let's go ahead and let's make a bourbon glaze, like a orange bourbon glaze. And the guy's like, it's too much work. I was like, trust me. So we put the bourbon in, we light it on fire, we break it down like 3-4 times, get a good thick syrup. Then we add fresh garlic and ginger and some Worcester and a little bit of soy and a little bit of honey and then orange juice, and we cook it down, and then we glaze our steaks with it. I mean, all the guys were like licking the pan afterward. They're like,
Right.
we did not just make that in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it's physically impossible. And I go, and that was just the crap that was in the ranch. I mean, I didn't go buy anything. I was just like, well, we can do this at the ranch, this at the ranch, this at the ranch. And all of a sudden they were like blown away that they could eat something that was better and cleaner. And it was, to me, that's where I get excited about. And so to make a pretty plate of food isn't just to make a pretty plate of food. It's to show people that, like, hey, you can take the time and make this. And the cool thing is every single plate of food you see is my wife's plate. Every single one. When I quit my job, she said, that's fine, but every plate of food is mine. So that burger you see where people are like, oh, that burger's too big, I can't eat it. She ate the whole damn thing. Like,
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it almost feels like it becomes less of a brag the more you do cook, because it's actually like, nah, if you have just a little bit of experience, you just know a few things, making this stuff is actually really easy. It's easier and faster and cheaper, and it's fantastic, and it'll make you feel better. And I think there's some great intentionality that I've found talking with people like yourself who make decisions with a reason behind it, and they don't allow themselves to just become I don't know, a victim of their own life, I guess, right? And so for you, it wasn't much of a choice, because you would become legitimately like really, really sick when you were eating certain things. So at some point, you either had to make this choice or get out. And for the rest of us, I think, and for many people, they can live okay eating crap food. The question is, how much intention do you have to make your own decisions and to recognize what you're doing, and how much do each of those decisions really matter? And to me, I always feel like they should matter. And that's nowhere more true than it is in hunting, where there's an intention, there's a reason why. Yeah, I could go to the store and I could buy that steak that's on the shelf, and it's still from an animal. It still could be healthy for me. You go get a good grass-fed, regeneratively farmed steak. That's great. But to be able to go out and do it yourself is like that extra level of intention. But not everybody does that. Not everybody has that within them, and I wish more people did.
Well, even like you talked about, like a good grass-fed steak. For me, the enzyme that develops within the fat of that animal comes through the finishing stage of that animal. It's when stress is introduced into that animal, and they go from the grazing mentality to like being fed, right? So even if they're grass-fed, they're usually finished, right? There's usually a finishing process to these animals. During that finishing is where this enzyme develops within the fat. And so
you can eat grass-fed beef just fine, but you can't eat you probably wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I don't like, we were actually before COVID, COVID happened in March, right? The world got shut down. That May I was supposed to go to Hawaii. Hawaii has, on the Big Island, they've got wild cows that were introduced back when the Spaniards were there, right? And they're living over the volcano. They're more wild than the deer. Like, they're more aggressive than a water buffalo. Like, people, you're not allowed to hunt them unless you go with village, like, tribes and stuff like that. And we were actually going to go and kill one of these bulls on the mountain and come back to the village and process it. And I was going to work with that doctor, and we were going to take samples of its fat, of its proteins, of its whatever, its stomach contents. We were going to compare it to a finished grass-fed Hawaii cow, and we really wanted to see where's the difference that comes into, even though it's domesticated, it's a domestic animal who is for 100 years lived untouched, and it's processed out, and it has this herd mentality, and it has a wild mentality. Are the same enzymes still present with a single shot and dropping that animal that they are found, even though it's a single shot to the head or a stick or a prodding stick or whatever? Those cows can be completely different. And our goal was to sit there and for me to take a bite and say, okay, let's watch. Like, it's on camera. Let's see what happens to my body. And really kind of tell the story. Does it come down to that whole idea of when we introduce processing, when we introduce this idea of reintroducing things to meat? Or is it because, think about living on the plains and just going out and shooting a cow and then butchering it in the middle of the grass and then taking it back to your house. That's truly grass-fed beef. You go to Sprouts nowadays or Whole Foods, what you're getting it's still the same. Sometimes those cows are still living in the same finishing pens as cows that were completely grain-fed. Mm-hmm. It's like the whole organic thing. I know a lot of organic farmers that have organic farms below their normal crops. So they've got normal corn, organic corn. So when they do the pesticides on the top, when all the water goes down, where do all those pesticides go down?
Yeah.
So technically they did not spray, so they're organic, but all the pesticides and all the crap from up top rolled downhill, and it's insane. If you actually truly study what organic means, it's bull crap.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're a seeker of truth because you don't want any of the bullshit. You don't like when it's just too easy for people to lie when they serve you food, right? Or when they sell you food. And so it seems like for you, a big piece of this is just like, you want to know the actual story. Like you want to go see it for yourself because you probably don't believe it if it's sold on a shelf.
I worked at a restaurant. I don't eat at restaurants because I worked at dozens of restaurants.
Same.
What happens in back of the house on the line, just saying. Yeah. And, watching when the health inspector comes and people are like, quick, oh no, change the label, change the date, add ice underneath so it gets colder. Like, it's just, and for me, like I said, it's all about the truth and being honest and open to who you are. My daughter went to a birthday party and the mom was serving steaks to all the kids. And my daughter's like, oh, I'm sorry. Can you tell me who killed this animal? My 11-year-old. And the mom's like, what? She's like, well, who killed this animal? Like, what animal is this? Is this an elk? Is this a deer? She's like, oh no, it's a cow. And she's like, you killed a cow? She's like, no, we got it from the grocery store. She goes, yeah, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And the mom literally calls me and is like, your daughter isn't have a steak. And I was like, she asked who killed the cow. I started laughing. I was like, I'll bring over an elk steak. And they're down the street. I brought over and the cool thing was the dad and the mom are not hunters at all. Mm-hmm. They know I hunt. They know they never ever talked about it. And so I brought over a big old huge ribeye steak for Emma. I was like, all these little girls got these little like New Yorks, and I'm like, no, you're getting a steak. And so she was sharing it with all these girls, and the dad comes over and tries it, and because I sat over there and cooked it for him, and I ended up taking the dad hunting this spring or last spring because he was like, dude, I gotta go get meat. Like that was better than any cow I've ever had in my life. And I was like, all right, let's go. And that's why I'm a chef. It's because food is the door. It's introduced. Because I post pictures of food, I've taken vegans out on hunts. Because I posted pictures of food, I've taken anti-hunters and had conversations, beautiful conversations. Because I post pictures of food, my daughters can now have a conversation at school when they open up their lunch bag in the middle of Huntington Beach, California, right on with all the surf and sand kids, and they're pulling out a venison roast beef sandwich, and they're like, "Oh, this is a deer my dad killed while he was in Texas." Like, that's why I cook, and if social media went away today, I would still be doing exactly the same thing. That's cool. Just not having to take a picture.
Yeah.
But I'd still
you see food as like the window to reach people too, which is because even if we've forgotten about hunting and those roots through the generations, we certainly haven't forgotten about food. And it's the same reason why all of these new plant-based foods are designed to look and feel like meat. That's all they want to be is
beyond beef.
No, the one that bugs me is just egg. I was
Oh, did you not see
this the other day?
Did you see my post?
No, I didn't.
I posted on Instagram. I said just egg, and it says minus egg. I was like, so this is just everything but an egg?
Yeah, isn't it strange how they're sort
of
allowed
to do that? Did you read the back of that
thing? It's gnarly. It's gnarly. It's bad. Yeah, and that definitely bugs me. But it's funny because again, that's the window. That's my point is that even people who are anti-hunting or anti-meat, they're still like kind of seeking meat. They're still seeking like a meat experience. And so maybe you're right. Like there's a window to reaching people there. I think that's really cool. And besides all of those great things, like you're talking about not eating in restaurants and things like that, I'm thinking like since we started cooking everything for ourselves, and then especially since we started getting the meat from places that we trust more, like we get a lot of our meat from Force of Nature out in Texas, which is it's all regeneratively farmed, and they mix in like the organ meat and stuff. It's really cool for people like me who I can't be hunting year round, and I don't even have the freezer space in my RV to store a year's worth of meat. Maybe one day, right? But I don't get food poisoning anymore, and I used to get food poisoning all the time, man. I mean, I was very sensitive to that, and it just wrecks you for like 2-3 days, you know. It's so nice that I don't have to like have fear of that anymore, unless I fuck around and go to Taco Bell, which I'll be honest, it still happens every now and then. Because you know what? Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, sometimes you're on the road and a bean burrito is a bean burrito.
Well, and I was even thinking about those chickens you mentioned, like from the Walmart, when we are like RVing literally from, I don't know, a 30-hour drive or something like that, and we pull in to stay at a Walmart at night, to be honest, that's my best option, is to go in and grab a chicken. To me, I see it and I'm like, yeah, they put a few weird things in it, and you're right. I don't know how long it's been sitting there, but I can't make that chicken right then. So again, like it's just about being intentional. Can you make just the best choice in any situation? And it's the same for people who I think truly don't have the money for hunting, which it is a money suck. It's a money pit for sure. Who don't have the resources for it, who don't have land, or who are brand new to it. Well, just what's the best you can do? Can you just learn a little more? Can you just get to the next step? Because eventually that process will lead you to some awesome places like it's led you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said, what can you do? So again, I'm in Southern California.
Yeah.
Okay. Excuses are like, pardon my French, like assholes. Everyone has them and they all stink, right?
They all stink.
And so, but here, about 45 minutes away is Temecula, Riverside area, right? So they've got egg laying farms all over the place. I can call them up and say, hey, do you have any egg layers that are not laying eggs anymore? They said, yes, we do. Hey, can I buy them off you? Sure. $2 a freaking chicken for old egg layers, right? I can go there. I bring my dog kennel. I throw in like 30 chickens, cost me like $60. I can now come home and process 30 chickens. Excuses are put there by a lazy person.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you too.
But no. So what I'm getting at is there's people that are like, I can't do it. And I'm like, well, no, it's because you don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And yes, money does play into it. And for me, that's why antelope hunting in Wyoming is still the best bet for any new hunter. If you were listening to this and you want to get into big game hunting and don't know where to start, there's so much public land in Wyoming. A doe tag is $46 right now for a tag and a license. You get 2 doe tags. You can come home with 60 pounds of meat with 2 does for under $100. My entire Wyoming trip, the moment I leave my house to the moment I come home, cost me $500. That is 2 doe tags, gas, lodging, everything. And I'm coming from California to Wyoming for 60 pounds of meat. Yeah. And so when you think about the terms, like, going to Texas, then I got to pay $1,200 for my classes. You come in, you learn how to take a doe, and then butcher and process it all yourself. My classes are like $1,200, and that's just because I'm paying ranches for us to be there and do it all. I'm making very little money. Usually it's just enough to cover my travel expenses, because I want to get people out there to experience this. And usually we're out there shooting hogs and everything else the whole time too. Mm-hmm. And I think when we start to take away it just becomes a natural, fishing. People don't think about fishing. Fishing is everywhere. Mm-hmm. Small game, you can get a small game license in almost any state for $50. Yeah. And that's 5 rabbits a day, 15 squirrels in some counties a day. All that meat adds up, and all that meat is delicious, and all that meat, but it's like, people want that experience of holding a rack for a social media picture. Mm. That deer is going to get you 60 pounds of meat. You can go out and kill 40 rabbits and get 60 pounds of meat, probably more. No, you're average about 1.5 pounds per rabbit. So you look at these different ideas, and all of a sudden this whole, hey, I can fill it. Like for me, I've got 2 freezers at home, and I have friends that cannot hunt, physical disabilities, their jobs, whatever, they just can't. And I'll get, I've got clipboards on each one of my freezers, and every shelf is labeled what meat is in there. And all they do is they take out meat and they mark off what they took. Wow. And I'm like, here's the passcode to my garage. Come in and take anything you want. Just mark it off. And there'll be times where I'm gone. I come back and there's like, backstrap sausage and whatever taken. And they write their name on the bottom. Because I don't want, again, the excuse for someone not to eat and not get excited about it. And those people are eventually going to come out and hunt with me. And so when we talk about the rise of everything, the cost of everything, I still go to the grocery store once a week and only spend $100. Mm-hmm. Every grocery, I go on Sundays, a meal plan, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my family. We don't eat out. Cost me $100 at the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because you have that intention. I agree with you. And I think when people start adding intention to their lives, it all snowballs and becomes better. And there's ways around all types of excuses, man. You're right. I mean, for me, the biggest excuse at the beginning was, where would I go? I don't have land. Where would I even do this? And for sure there's public land. The other thing is you can find really strange ways to use your strengths to be able to make connections within hunting. Like, because I do a podcast, because Andrea made her documentaries, since that happened, we found one friend who let us go hunt, and now we have at least 2 to 3 other people who are like, come out and hunt with me anytime. We have this place, we have this place. So if you can use your strengths, which mine would be in podcasting, in documentary creating, and all those things, you can make connections. You can network within this place, and maybe that's the good side of there being less and less hunting, is that everybody you meet who is hunting is really wants you to come along and really is supportive of it, because we all want to see it grow. So there's ways through. I have to, before I get kicked out of this room that we got for the day, I have to ask about 2 things because they're relevant to me right now. The first one is this hog hunt that we have upcoming in Texas. So we're going out, like I said, we'll have a couple weeks to hunt some hogs with the bows. We're very excited about that, and it's going to be brand new, dealing with hogs. So you already gave me one piece of advice where to aim there. Any other advice for us on this hog hunt?
Yeah, have fun. I think that's the biggest thing is don't let fear screw it up. Because I think a lot of times we overthink when we're out there hunting hogs. They'd never stop. A deer stops and eats, a hog will never stop. They are always moving. They are always scooting. They are always moving their nose. They're always walking. They're always licking. They're always doing something. So when you get the shot, take the shot. And you can watch videos, go YouTube videos of hogs, and they never stop to eat. They're always eating along, right? And so that's a big one. Second is when you are skinning them, if it's bigger the hog, it's the hide is going to be really, really thick, and the hair is going to dull your knife really, really, really crazy. So go to Home Depot, buy a carpet knife that has the carpet hook on it. You can buy a carpet knife. I think they're $2, and you buy a pack of the carpet blades. They have a hook on each end. It's to tear up the carpet. I think you can get a pack of 50 for $3. And if you go from the back of the neck all the way down to where the tail is, that one blade will cut it like butter, and you won't dull your knives. And then you can get in there and work on the inside of the hide where the fascia is sitting on the muscles. Whenever I go hog hunting, I pull that out, and all these guys are laughing at me, and I'm like, they're like, yeah, can I have one of those? I'm like, yeah, sure, here you go, in the box over there. And you spend like $5 or $6 on it. It's not expensive. It's not pretty. It's not meant to be pretty. It's meant to be effective. That can even go into the haunches, where if you want to take the haunch, you take that hook in there and straight down.
Cool.
And it pulls really, really good. Avoid the urine and the poop at all costs. If for some reason you do get it on your blade, rinse your blade before you go anywhere into your knife, because that will. I've eaten 400-pound wild boars, and they taste delicious. But usually when people tell you that they taste stinky and rancid, they're not taking care of that blade at all. But yeah, I think just make sure they're pretty blind. So they're not really going to see you. It's all about your scent. So just make sure that you're watching that more so than whitetail. They come in and smell you. They're going to be gone before you even see them.
Very cool. All right.
So
yeah, I'll watch out for all those things. And I think I am looking forward to like you said, having a little more fun on this hunt. I mean, that last hunt with the whitetail, it was intense, man. And I mean, for our first ever hunt, because Andrea was making her documentary about it, there was a lot of pressure on that event. And so we had 3 weeks of no sleep. We were out there constantly, every morning, every evening, just no breaks. And it was tough, man. It put us to the test mentally, which I think is good every now and then, but I am looking forward to just relaxing. The other thing we're going to do that I also wanted to ask you about, my second thing, was we're going to be doing small game hunting out there. So I've got a nice little 22. It's the most fun gun ever to me. And we're going to go out for squirrels and rabbits. Do you do a lot of small game hunting? I mean, you mentioned kind of your math on those rabbits, so I wondered, is that something that you've got lots of experience with as well?
Oh yeah. And I just posted a video on YouTube on how to clean a rabbit. It's a cool method. It's called the squeeze method. It's what Native Americans used to do. So if you're going to kill a lot of them and you want to get the guts out, you actually just go where the rib cage is and you squeeze just like hand over hand, and all the guts will pop right out, all the internal organs and guts, and there's no guts on the inside, so you can just throw it in an ice chest or whatever with the hair on it, and it's clean. And then when you are going to process them, you don't need a knife at all. Their skin comes off like a banana peel.
That's what I've heard with rabbits. We've done
Yeah.
some squirrels at this point, and those were delicious, and it was a lot of fun going out and hunting for them. But yeah, rabbits, that's going to be a new one. I'm
So you're
not
going to be able to shoot jackrabbits out there too. And they have jackrabbits out there that are going to weigh 6 pounds, 5-6
Oh,
pounds.
cool.
They're huge. They're monsters. Don't try to squeeze one of those. Everyone said I couldn't this last Texas trip, so I proved them wrong. But I think I pulled a disc or something because it's like squeezing it out of a dog. But they were all laughing. We have it on video. I'll have to send it. But everyone's like, you can't do it. And I was like, don't tell me I can't. That's my one thing. I feel like Marty McFly. Like, don't call me chicken. I'll prove you wrong. But yeah, no, I think the more small game, raccoons, there's tons of coons out there. They are incredibly delicious. Possums, I know it sounds weird, but you think about these animals, they're not city animals.
Mm-hmm.
So they're eating what the deer are eating, what the hogs are eating.
Right.
In that area are also going to have porcupines, which are incredibly delicious as well.
Really?
Plus,
Okay.
you get some really cool quills off the middle part where their tail is. Some pretty cool quills
Oh, very nice.
off the back of them. Yeah, I've got tons of crap. But I mean, I save everything. Like when the animal, I save all the hide, I save all the bones, I save the sinew. I've made a whole roll of sinew that I've given to buddies that when they bow hunt, they use the sinew to wrap their like atlatls and bows and stuff like that. But I think your biggest thing is just to go out there and have fun. And you've got my cell phone number. So if you kill something and you call me, I'm going to answer and I'm going to walk you through it. Jeremy, you talked about Jeremy. I've gotten many calls from him going, dude, what do I do? How do I do this? Getting calls from him. I've also got calls where he's passed up a young buck and he texts me a picture and goes, my inner Jeremiah said not to pass it up. And I go, well, you should have listened to your inner Jeremiah because now you're going home empty.
Right.
And so I think just going out there and having fun and understanding the idea behind it, and rabbit meat is incredibly delicious. Squirrel meat's incredibly delicious. There's not going to be too many squirrels out where you're going. More so you're going to find a lot of jacks, a lot of cottontails.
Oh.
And jackrabbits are unlimited. So have fun with that.
Nice. Well, I am excited. Okay. First, Andrew, can you snap some pics for me before I wrap this thing up, if you don't mind? Yeah, so we'll be out there soon, and we're all like set up to do it. And I will absolutely follow your advice, and I'll definitely be hitting you up with questions because a lot of it's brand new. I really appreciate you taking the time, man. I mean, I don't mind doing these things over Zoom, but at some point I'd love to get together with you and actually meet you in person. Next time we're out in California, I'll do my best to make that happen.
Well, how long are you guys in Texas?
We're going to be there we're literally there for the next 2 months of just bouncing all over the place working. So if you find yourself out there,
I'll be in
holler.
Texas for the last week of February.
Okay, where at?
Comstock, Del Rio area. So
Okay.
if it's like 3 hours south-ish of San Antonio.
Okay. We might
So,
have to make something happen because we will be
We're
there.
going to be shooting like 40-something deer.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. We've got, the ranch has, I think, 42 MLD tags that are left that need to be done. And so we're going to go out there with, I think there's like 13 dudes. And we are going to, I have 4 different sausage ideas that we're going to be doing. So we're literally going to be, our goal is to kill and butcher 40 deer in 4 days. So who knows, even if you guys want to come by and learn how to process a deer quickly and effectively.
I like that, man. I'll hit you up because that's definitely something we could do.
Yeah, we're there I'm there the 24th through the 28th.
Okay. I got that written down. And I wrote down to get a carpet knife. That's good advice. I have to get a table, too. That occurred to me because I'm going to need a table at some point to do all of this work. Okay, what am I forgetting? A huge thank you to Jeremy Kerber for hooking us up. It's super great to get to talk to more and more people, including yourself. I tried to get Tony on the podcast when we were down in Florida last, but I think he was down in South America for a long time, and so we just didn't work it out.
Oh, when he was in Argentina?
Yeah. But we will get him on next time we're out in Florida, so people can kind of look forward to that. That's definitely going to happen at some point. Tell everybody where they can find you and where you'd like them to follow you online.
Yeah, you can find me in Southern California. Let's hang out. Let's go get a taco. But if you're looking on social media, fromfieldtoplate.com is the website. You can go get recipes. I'm actually working on a brand new interactive website that should be up in the summer. So there's a lot of recipes that are not on there. So if you see something on social media that you don't see on the website, just direct message me and I'll send it to you privately. I do that daily to people. But the new interactive website is going to be something that no one has ever seen in hunting game and cooking, which is pretty awesome. I have an old lady who's just working her butt off to get it looking my crazy ideas, which we'll be doing a lot of photography and video in Texas in the end of the month for that website. Otherwise, social media wise, if you're on Instagram, from field to plate, it's really easy. All the way from Pinterest to Facebook. If you want to join the Facebook page, the group we were talking about, just from field to plate, the group, go on there and answer a couple questions and join a group. We gained like 14,000 members last month. So people are excited. And it's a little different. If you want to email me from field to plate the wild game or the wild chef, from field to plate the wild chef at gmail.com. And I'll go ahead and answer, but you can otherwise direct link to any one of those websites as well.
Good deal, man. That's awesome. I'm excited to see that website too. That sounds really cool. For people who don't know, who are listening, because I haven't talked about it enough, like every single episode, Andrea's doc about our first hunt in Wisconsin hunting whitetail is up now. If you get a chance, I recommend you watch that. It's like 45 minutes long, and she deserves to be on Netflix. Like the documentaries this woman creates are phenomenal. So everybody go check that out for me if you would. I will have some photos. We're going to have the video. This is probably going to be in the next episode of that docuseries on the hunt. So big thanks to you for being a part of that too, Jeremiah. Thanks everybody for listening. And as always, we will see you on the next episode.